fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. I got the man himself on, the next president of the NELC, Mr. James Henry. He's going to talk to you a little bit. I've already talked to the CLC. I'm going to put that in after James is finished. And so we'll just have an entire episode of just the CLC and the head man himself, Mr. Henry. You with me, my brother?
I am, brother. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. Hey, it's only, 9:30 here. We're about 2 hours earlier than we usually get on here.
Absolutely. Hey,
it's normally about midnight. So, I'm gonna let you have it, my man. It's all yours. And then if we need to talk about something, we'll talk about something. It's all yours, all right, my brother?
Absolutely. First and
All right,
foremost, want to thank you for having the CLC on this evening. And one thing that I wanted to make sure happens is that the CLC activists, all of them, are introduced to the entire membership. This evening, I know you had Dave Groskopf on, the president of Buffalo, New York. Kamitra Lewis, president of Dallas, Texas. Ethel Bibbs, president of Beaumont, Texas. Rob Kozier, president of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Howard Khomeini, president of Honolulu, Hawaii. Then you also have Walt McGregor, president of Branch 2184, and John Cruz, president of Branch 41, Brooklyn, Staten Island. These are some very, very serious activists for the NELC, and they are on the CLC slate. And these are people that I consider very, very good at what they do and held in high regard, obviously, by their membership, and the general membership of the NELC will find out as well. I would like to take an opportunity to thank all those that participated last week on November 24th, the CLC Zoom meeting. Now, here's some great numbers for you here, Corey. We had on that Zoom meeting, we had 860 individuals that participated on the call itself, out of 1,163 that registered. But check this out, 5,800 viewed it Facebook Live. That is fantastic. So those that participated and got on the Zoom call and then streamed it live on Facebook, I want to say thank you very much. It was important that we get our message out about how important it is to get out the vote. In this instance here, there has been, as has been often said, that fear-mongering is going on in full effect. And I know people are afraid of what they don't know, but the reality of it is there are things in this life that are worth fighting for. And in this instance here, fighting for what letter carriers deserve is something that we must take up. The letter carriers here, each and every one of you have a voice, and that voice must be heard. And the CLC and myself are going to be right on the front lines like we are now, telling you that this is something that has to be dealt with, has to be taken to the mat as it relates to giving our all to ensure that letter carriers are getting what they deserve. I've often said here that letter carriers have to be and should be and deserve to be industry leaders in wages, benefits, and working conditions. And this proposed TA is woefully short of meeting those demands and those deserving issues of the letter carriers. So with that being said, I do want to make sure that everyone take the opportunity to contact the NLC if you recently moved and make sure that your address is up to date. From my understanding, that the ballots for the TA is supposed to go out this coming week. Make sure that you don't mark on the ballot other than what your preference is. I can tell you flat out, for me, I am voting no. Why? Because it is DOA. It is dead on arrival for me when every single letter carrier is not treated with just and deserving rewards for our hard work and dedication and devotion. So, with that being said, again, make sure that you get out to vote. Each one, reach one. Each of you, not only should you vote, but you should be tapping your fellow brothers and sisters on the shoulder, making sure that they vote, and make sure that this TA that supposed to be in the best interest of the letter carriers and in review of it is not, that it is in fact voted down. With that being said, we are in a situation where things that was normally taken for granted, such as real solid leadership that always worked in the best interest of letter carriers, has come into question. The lineage of our NLC leadership is one that we have always been proud of. It's always been a source of pride to say you were a member of the NLC. And again, those sentiments seemingly are thrown into question more often than not at this particular point in time. But the reality of it is here, the concerned letter carriers, also known as the CLC, are here to ensure that your best interests as letter carriers are met and that they are our chief priority. There are some that question the plight of the letter carriers, such as, are there truly letter carriers out there that are living in their car? Are there carriers that need to go to the union hall and take a shower? Are there carriers that cannot meet their daily needs or meet their financial obligations and have to forego health benefits? That is absolutely a fact. And it really doesn't matter if it's one, or if it's 1,000, or if it's 10,000, or if it's 100,000. If one letter carrier is without, then each and every one of us are without. That should be our attitude. This is what a union is about. It's about looking out for one another. And the fact of the matter is that, again, this current proposed TA does not meet the demands and meet justice for our letter carriers for an array of reasons that I need not have to go back into. You can go on to the CLC Facebook page. You can go on CLC's YouTube page, and you can hear and review and listen to that Zoom call from last week, and it is laid out for you in stark detail. So with that being said, Brother Corey, first of all, I want to thank you for having our candidates and our activists on your podcast, because it's important that they hear from everyone. This is not a one-man show. This is not about the elevation of any one individual, but the organization that is working tirelessly to reform this NLC, to reform our union in regards to restoration of solid, strong leadership as it relates to making sure that everything that letter carriers are deserving of, they get what's coming to them. So again, thank you, brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, my man. There's something you talked about. I want to touch on just a little bit. When you were saying about carriers that were having to live in their cars, that was being called into question, I did see, unfortunately, somebody from one of the business agents that works in one of the business agents' offices calling that into question, saying, was it the carrier's fault? Was it because of a divorce? Was it because they were addicted to drugs? And unfortunately, James, that's the mindset of a lot of the people in the union, is that surely it's not because our wages are subpar that everybody's passed us by. It has to be our own undoing is the reason that people our brothers and sisters are having to live out of their cars, because surely it must be by divorce or drug addiction. It can't be because of this piddly ass TA. And so when you say that, that's what reminded me of that. But that's unfortunate that that's where we've come, is that our union, and you hit it perfectly, one harm, we're all harmed. If one's living in their car, every city letter carrier, if it's a union, should be upset about that. Should say, hey, if one of our individuals is living out of their car, having to take showers at the union hall, we should all be up in arms about that. It reminds me of Brother Gates when he passed away, and we're begging our president to get out of the streets, to make a movement, to start, just burning shit down. And he says, we're wanting a pound of flesh. It's that mindset that we've come into as far as this union is concerned, is that it's okay if certain factions are harmed. These people can live in their cars. It must be their own undoing. Somebody can die in somebody's front yard. Y'all just want a pound of flesh. And so I'm glad you talked about that when the CLC takes over, that mindset's going to be done away with. It's going to be about the city letter carrier again.
Well, let me share with you, based on what you just told me, and even when I heard that, in my view, that's an affront to everything that a union brother and sister is supposed to be about. I remember when I was in the military, there used to be T-shirts that they sold in the base exchange, and it had a picture of another Marine carrying another. Say, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. So what does that mean in layman terms? And even right here, it doesn't matter, even if it was due to someone's personal issues that may have brought them, it does not matter. We should be there to lift them up. We should be there to wrap our arms around them. We should be there to help them get to where they need to get to. But that is not the case here. I want to ask you a question here. You tell me, how much different are our current circumstances in relation to what they were in 1970 in the Wildcat Strike? Was it not utilizing that same rationale that some people saying that it must be the carrier undo it? Was it not that those carriers were coming in dutifully, working hard every day, but some of them was on public assistance? Was it not that they did everything that they were supposed to do and did not have a living wage? And it went all the way across the country. If you take a look at what's going on now, even a casual observer can see that it's not just New York, it's not just LA, it's not just Chicago, Miami, or any other metropolitan area that's normally associated with high cost of living. It is every single letter carrier from every single place throughout the country, whether you live in the South, Midwest, in the affluential areas. It does not matter. People, the membership needs are not being met. We do not have a living wage. What has transpired here is that we have fallen back further and further and further behind, to the point where we're not even in a catch-up mode. We are in a situation where we are somewhat almost trapped in our circumstances because of what? The mindset of this is always what we've gotten in recent contracts, and therefore it must be good. Well, circumstances are different now. You can use the pandemic as an analogy, is that everyone primarily before the pandemic worked at the office, and now people are working at home, a good deal of them, because the circumstances dictated a different way of doing things and how to adjust and adapt. Well, the situation with letter carriers not being able to pay to get groceries that's sufficient to last them from one paycheck to the next paycheck, when they're having to wonder how they're going to put gas in a car because they're commuting an hour or two to get to work and spending hundreds of dollars a week in gas. When you're talking about letter carriers are in circumstances where their loved ones that depend on them to have some type of recreation can no longer be done without some very much sacrificing of other things to be able to meet the basic needs of your family's welfare. When we were talking about letter carriers having the ability to have a living wage where their 24 hours can actually be what the cornerstone of the union or one of the rallying cries started off with as relates to 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of rest is no longer the case. Because guess what? The answer to that, to offset you having a living wage, is to work these inordinate amount of hours, which eventually wears on your body. And what's the point of working all these hours to be able to live from paycheck to paycheck when you're infirm? What's the point of working all these hours and you're still being required by your circumstances to have to work way off into past middle age? There's no longer a situation or circumstances where most of us can retire at 55, 56, 57. It is not unheard of to go into a workroom floor and find letter carriers on the workroom floor that are 60, 65, 70, 75 years old because they cannot afford to retire because it's taking you forever to get to the top pay scale. And then when you get to the top pay scale, you're still not making everything that we are deserving of. And the CCAs, that's a whole story in and of itself about how they have been really overlooked and done with a car driven over them and placed in reverse and backed up. That's what it appears to be. The reality of it is, though, Corey, is that our craft is in a crisis mode, as I say, at this particular moment. There is no reason whatsoever for any letter carrier to have to, as a group, as a whole, live paycheck to paycheck because we're not making enough money to really have a living wage. That is evident by our competitors that are making more money than we make. And somehow we're supposed to be proud of the fact that, oh, we're making anywhere between 81 to 87% of what they make. That's an insult to us, right? That's an insult. So with that, I don't want anybody to be afraid of the unknown. Some say, well, why should we go to arbitration? We may end up losing something. Just think if we had that mentality about someone that got fired or placed out on emergency suspension or someone that is improperly denied limited duty or light duty. We're not going to go for it because we might lose. Our job is to represent. And like I said here, there are certain things that are actually worth dying for. Now, I'm not advocating that anybody go out and die for the contract. But what I am saying, that there are things that are worth fighting for. And this moment is a call to action for every single letter carrier in the Postal Service. Every single letter carrier. This is a call to action to stand up for what we believe in and to fight for what we believe in. I cannot emphasize that enough to you. Now, I know that you have often used the word fight, fight, fight. If there was ever a worthy cause, it is this moment and this time here that we are in. And the CLC is leading the way. You've heard me say it before, not only will I fight for you, we'll fight with you. And that is something that I believe is unique with each and every single one of those CLC activists that you have on your show tonight, is that they have demonstrated, have a history of standing up and fighting for what they believe in. This is not about stirring the stink stick. This is not about being a dissenter. This is about saying, No, we're not going for the dumb stuff. No, we're not going to just take whatever you give to us and take the crumbs off the table. We deserve more. Not only do we deserve more, we're demanding more. And so I'm asking each and every letter carrier out there that is under the sound of my voice and your voice here is to stand up, make your voice heard. Because I will guarantee you this here is that if we put our stamp of approval on this proposed tentative agreement, it is going to send a message to management at USPS headquarters that this is acceptable. And it's going to disincentivize them to offer us anything other than what we have now. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about how broke the Postal Service is. There may be some financial issues, but what I want to hear is a case for how broke our carriers are. What I want to hear about the challenges that we're going through. That's what I want to hear about. Because that's the real story. There's a lot of things that carriers are in need of. We're in need of new vehicles. We're in need of better facilities. We're in need of a harmonious work environment more than what we get on a daily basis. We need more time off. But the reality of it is that you have no peace of mind if you can't pay your bills. You have no sense of comfort when you're wondering how you're going to make sure that your kids' tuition get paid. You have no sense of comfort if you have to make a choice of only getting one car and one having to take public transportation and the other one because you can't afford two cars, because we don't have a living wage, because you are in a situation and circumstances purely because not having a living wage and not being able to provide to the degree that we should with the monies that we receive currently right now. Our economic package, 1.3%, yes. You've gotten something similar to that in the past, but that's the past and this is now. And now it's different. And we need to move forward and we need to ensure that we get out the vote. I can't emphasize that enough to you. Everyone, get out the vote.
You know, James, there's nothing sadder to me as a union person to hear individuals, and this is what you were talking about earlier, say, we may lose. I've done episode after episode about that mentality. Well, we may lose. I couldn't imagine as being a business agent. And I've got my advocates and I give them an arbitration and they come into me and they say, we may lose. That would be the last opportunity you had as an advocate, because an advocate to me is supposed to be the killers. You know, you got an arbitration advocate, that's a killer. And, you know, you give them a case, you make it work, you find a way to win. And that's how you do that. You have these fighters that train and train and train, just like I talked about Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. You know, what if Buster Douglas, they said, all right, your next fight is going to be against Mike Tyson. Well, hell, I can't fight him. I may lose. You know, he fought him. He could have got knocked out like most everybody else did against Mike Tyson. But that's what fighters do. They fight. They want to fight. A good advocate, they fight. They want to fight. They look forward to it, no matter the case. When you give it to an advocate that wants to fight, they're going to get in there and they're going to find a way to win. And so seeing all this stuff online about we may lose, that's not true union to me. You never have the mindset of we may lose. There's always a possibility that that could happen. But I would rather go down fighting than to just give up and say, I guess it's just this time here, we'll take this 1.3 again. And because the Postal Service is broke, well, guess what they're going to tell you next year and the next year after that and the next year after that? We're broke. So here's you some chump change like we offered you the last time. And y'all just take that. And that's what's happening to us, James. I mean, that's happened to us in the past for however many times. And we just take that chump change because we may lose. So I'm glad you said that, because it pisses me off all the time when I when I see that online of this, we may lose. True union, that's not the mindset. You want to fight. That's how I've been raised with Lou Drass and Pete Moss. You know, the two best business agents that I've been under is you want to fight. Get in there and fight. And win or lose, you fight. And so, yeah, that's upsetting, brother. I'm glad you said that.
And you know the reason why Buster Douglas didn't lose is because he went there with the heart of a lion.
Yep.
Right? No pun intended. He went in there not afraid. Majority of the ones that lost against Mike Tyson, they were defeatists. They were defeated before they actually ever went in there. Now, obviously, everyone counts up the cost in regards to what you're doing, you know. However, you're talking about that old adage of risk versus the reward. We cannot risk continuing on in the manner in which we are going. You go off into CVS and they have a sign over the pharmacy. For those of you that says you can't afford to take your medicine, they say you can't afford not to. All right?
Yeah.
You cannot afford to not fight for what we believe in. Like I said, it's counterproductive and it's counter to everything that we espouse as a union to be about. Like I said, if someone was on a removal, 16-7, or any other type of issue, and we say, well, we're not going to take it just on the strength because we don't know for sure what we're going to get. What we do know for sure what we're going to get here is more of the same if we don't stand up and say that this is it, that we must go forward, that we have to make sure that our people are represented to the fullest extent. And haters are going to hate. As you know, you are on social media way, way, way more than I am. You see all these different things. There's people that says all kind of nonsense, things that are not true, things that just make them feel good. People repeat things that tickle their ear, whether or not it's true or not true. The one thing I can tell you that's true about the individuals that you have on your show tonight and me is that we have a record of fighting for letter carriers. We have a record of making sure that their voices are heard. And that is what we bring to the table and will continue to bring. And I am exceedingly proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you and with each and every one of those advocates, activists that are on your show tonight. The reality of it is, Corey, is that our people are dependent on us at this point. They're dependent on us. And somebody has got to be held accountable for not ensuring that letter carriers' interests are placed square center at the table and is a priority in its true and real sense of the word, not figuratively speaking. It's not what you say, it's what you do that tells who you are and what you're about. It says what you believe in. And what I believe in is that I believe in union. I believe in letter carriers. And ain't nobody out there just whining. These are not fables and made up stories about the plight of a lot of the letter carriers. Some may be more extreme circumstances than others, but it's an insult to them to say that that's self-inflicted wound of yours. Who are we to set in judgment as to what's happening with someone? What we should be doing, I said earlier, is wrapping our arms around them and lifting them up. Because what's that old saying? A rising tide lifts all boats. I remember when I came in and started representing letter carriers, and we used to negotiate with the APWU. And what happened? We dropped to APWU. because at that time it was almost like a sack of bricks. They were dead weight. They were holding letter carriers back. I remember clerks wanting to become letter carriers because of the pay and the representation that the NLC had. And now they're ahead of us. They're ahead of us. Whoever would have thought that that was the case? But it's the reality. And then you want to say, well, at the end, we're going to make more than them. Well, people are concerned about the right here and now. Nobody's thinking about 10, 11, 12, 13 years down the road. They're thinking about the right here and now. Those starting wages need to be significantly higher. Everyone on the pay scale that's affected should be taken care of in an equitable manner. That's not the case. So the reality that we are facing is that we either go off into this black hole of perpetual 1.3, 1.3, 1.3, and get sucked into that mentality to the point, like I said, that's why I styled it as a black hole that you can't get out of because this is all that you've been accustomed to. This is all you know. Or we fight with everything that we got and insist that we have a living wage, because that's what's first and foremost at the front of everybody's mind. And that's what's prevalent in everyone's life right now when it comes to being a letter carrier. And so, brother, your voice has been very, very significant amongst the letter carrier craft. I have nothing but mad respect for you. And the reality of it is that the CLC is an organization that will do any and everything that we can on behalf of the letter carriers. Period. Full stop.
Well, you know I love you, brother, and I would not be a part of the CLC if it wasn't for that. I have full confidence. You and I have talked a lot
Yes.
about your game plan, and I'm all for it. Going on the offensive day one, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on that. One of the things that's funny is that an individual out of a business agent's office was kind of defending the establishment, saying that they hear the CLC talking a lot, but the CLC just says they're going to vote no because they don't like the tentative agreement, but they had no game plan. I had you on earlier where you talked about you have so many days, and if you can't come up with something, we're going to arbitration. Also, with the CCA pay, to me, James, if you go into this meeting, and I don't hearing a lot of things now that the Postal Service never did even offer us something. It was Renfro went in there and offered what we got. I'm gonna have to find out more about that, but I'm hearing that a lot from people that are in the know. But if I go in there, James, and I say the APW, the clerks coming in are making $27 an hour. My CCAs have to make $27 an hour starting out. If you've got money to pay the clerks $27 an hour, you'll have money to pay the CCAs $27 an hour. And if they say, we just don't have it, that's the end of my negotiation. I'm leaving. I'm saying, we will see you in arbitration. And you'll have to justify that to an arbitrator why this craft, who has already been determined by a national arbitrator to not do as much as us, deserves $7 more an hour starting out than our carriers do. That's what they're going to have to show. But that, to me, would be a non-starter. Unfortunately, the president we have now said that it would be an all-career workforce would be a non-starter. Then he kind of backtracked and he said, well, if we do keep CCAs, they'll have a substantial raise, and they got what? Less than $1 an hour raise. I have no confidence in him. But when people say the CLC, they don't have a game plan, that is a game plan. You said that at the end of these days, if we don't have an agreement, we're going to arbitration. That is, in fact, a game plan. So
The process has to keep moving. And if you do not hold them accountable and do not hold them to what they've agreed to, then you're in a situation where you are chasing your tail and you have all this time that goes by with nothing to show. And I think that's perhaps the most aggravating factor of it all, is that people were holding out hope against hope, saying that surely, because surely there has to be something great and grand coming. For what other reason why we would have to wait all this time? Because it just allows just common sense. People were saying, no, 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 no. I bet you something is going to be coming. And the supporters of ensuring that a positive attitude was and face was put forward kept pumping that. But what happened? That did not occur. Now, let me make it clear. Like I said, I was hoping that he did succeed. I want to make that very clear. I have no ill will towards anyone, including him, particularly people that are in a position of responsibility, because had he succeeded, the NLC and the letter carrier craft would have succeeded. We would have benefited. That's what it's supposed to be about. That's what it's supposed to be about. It ain't supposed to be about worrying about somebody get a feather in their hat. But again, when the rubber meets the road and you objectively view what was presented to us, meaning the letter carrier craft, you have to wonder what was actually occurring all that time. What actually went down? And the presentation of that, look, we squeeze as much juice out of that turnip as we can get and all that other stuff. Even if that was the case, if that's all that they were willing to do, then we should have said, unfortunately, that's insufficient and we have to move forward. We don't have to just take any and everything, not in these current circumstances. So, my brother, our craft, like I said, in my view, is in a crisis mode. This is a time that either we're going to advance the letter carrier craft or we're going to be sucked into a black hole. One of the two. But this is what I do know. And you hear me use all these sayings. A lot of times it's just how I talk with regards to certain things that describe circumstances. You know, there's been those that say, well, here are all these positive things about this tentative agreement. And there are surely some that are no good. Well, you can't take chicken poop and make chicken soup. You know, you just can't. And the reality of it is you cannot take this tentative agreement and try and make it something that it's not. Because the litmus test is, does it meet our needs? Does it meet our needs? It don't even exceed our needs. Does it meet our needs? And the presentation that if the sun, the moon, and the stars all line up, this is what you projected to get. Without the caveat that the projection to get only would be applicable to a small group of the letter carrier craft. And everyone else's raise or increases are prorated or decreased as you go all the way down to the tune of maybe 67% of what is offered at the top step. That's not, and again, that's if the sun, the moon, and the stars, meaning if everything lines up perfectly, you could get perhaps, yeah, it's true, you could get more, maybe. Equally true as you could get nothing. And so under those circumstances here, a general wage increase is what's most important because that's guaranteed money. COLAs have served us well. And yes, anyone can say, yeah, possibly we haven't lost them up to this particular point. That is not sufficient enough to be fearful or going fear. I do not believe at all in the spirit of fear. And the reality of it is anybody that knows me, I've been doing this job for a long time. I've been representing letter carriers 6 months into my career. I'm in my 36th year right now. And I have a record that can stand on its own. And there's nothing and nobody can say or do to take that away. That would say that you're always, James Henry, working in the interest of the letter carriers, always trying to surround yourself with people that are working in the interest of the letter carriers. And there's old saying that goes, well, if you want to know how an individual is, take a look at their friends. Well, my brother, I consider you a friend. I consider those other individuals on there. You want to know what I'm really about? Take a look at my friends, and others around. So with that being said, again, we are on the job. Make sure that they get out the vote. This is the primary reason why I wanted to come on this evening and emphasize that over and over. If I say it once, it wouldn't be enough to say it 200 times, that we have to make our voices heard. You can look at just the regular world around us about those people that are disaffected because they don't vote, because they've lost confidence. And we talked about how the last national election for NLC officers, that only approximately 15% of the craft voted. That is abysmal, man. That should not ever occur. We have got to make sure that way more than 15% vote for this TA that come out, vote no on it. We got to make sure that people know that we are working in their interest and that they do not feel disaffected, that they do participate. And I'm telling you, I was really encouraged. And this is why I wanted to tell you what the numbers were from last Sunday. When you're talking about, brother, we put out notice that we was going to have this nationwide Zoom call, and we have 1,153 people registered. We have 860 actually on the Zoom call, and we have 5,800 live stream on Facebook. That's a good day. That's a good day. And guess what? There's more to come.
We're just getting started, brother. I can tell you that. We're just getting started.
Yes.
All right, my man. James,
All
I
right.
appreciate you, brother, as always. Now, anytime you want to come on, man, you just got to give me a call. And you won't.
That is true. And, I got to tell you, because I want people to understand this as well, is that myself, nor the CLC, yourself, there's nothing, it bears out saying, there's nothing political about this at all. Not when you're principle based, say, why are you standing up? Because it's not politically correct. Why are you going against the grain? Well, you can't clean the pig and be in the mud with it. That's why. Be blessed, my brother.
All right, man. James, take care, my man. I'll holler at you later, brother.
Most definitely.
See you, bud.
Take care now.
All right. Welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. Man, I got a special episode today. I've been waiting on this one a long time, trying to get all the players in place to make it happen. But I'm going to have a CLC episode with my brothers and sisters from the CLC. They're going to talk to y'all, kind of introduce themselves to y'all, let you know what they're about. If they've got a position already they're going to run for, they're going to talk about that. Kind of why the CLC? Of all the things they could be doing right now, why would they get into the CLC and get involved with what's fixing to happen in the next year and a half with campaigning and all that stuff? Why is that important to them? Also, Mr. Henry, James Henry, who will be the next president of the NLC. I know that for a fact, but why Mr. Henry? You could do a lot of other things, but why back Mr. Henry? And so that's kind of where this is going to go. I told them they can take as little or as long as they want. I just want them to introduce themselves to y'all across the country so that y'all will know where the CLC is at right now with these people who I think are all stars. I've talked about several of them before. And so I'm going to hand it over to them. We're going to go from the wonderful young ladies of the CLC first, and then we'll get into, we're not going to go, I said we'd go by the most handsome to the least handsome, or was it the least handsome to the most handsome? No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go through the guys and however they fall in place, and that's how it'll happen. But I've got 7 of them today. They're going to talk to y'all. Now, tomorrow, I will do an episode tomorrow. I'll do a salted peanuts type episode. There's some discipline that's been sent to me as far as these scanners are concerned. I'm going to cover that. I also cover these videos that have come out with the last week. And I'm going to kind of tell my tale on those things, kind of where we're at as far as my philosophy on why we should be getting out in the streets, as many things as we can do to make the public aware of where we're at as far as the NLC and the city letter carrier craft. I'm a proponent of that. Unfortunately, our president right now disagrees with that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So we'll do kind of a salted peanuts. That could get carried away. I don't know. I hadn't decided yet. But anyway, let's get to the most important thing. My brothers and sisters of the CLC, who I love dearly. First, we're going to have Miss Bibbs. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and kind of tell y'all why the CLC, who she is, why the CLC, why Mr. Henry. So, Miss Bibbs, you with us?
Yes, I'm Ethel Bibbs, president of Branch 842 in Beaumont, Texas. I'm really enjoying this journey I'm going through with CLC because it's a unity. We're not allowed to strike, but this is our way of speaking out and voting no and staying together as one and making our voice known. Our workload is growing on a daily basis. The parcels are out of control. We have to take the management bullcrap every day on the floor. So I feel like we deserve more. Our safety is at hand every day when we go on the streets. It's getting harder and harder. Just the other night, I had to work until 10 o'clock at night, looking over my shoulder, making sure I get the packages out, making sure no one come up behind me to rob me. So I just feel like we deserve more. Our pay should be higher and our workload should be less, I wish, but it's not. So I just feel like they're just trying to short us on the contract. He's trying to short us on the contract. And I just want us to get the honest pay for what we deserve.
All right. So when you talk about the CLC, and here you come. You obviously you're part of the CLC because I see your backdrop there. What attracted you to the CLC?
I see that James just want unity. He just want all of us to stand together as one and get what's right, just not for one, but for all. And he's not about the show. He's not out just to say, hey, I'm James Henry running for president. He's about what's right for every letter carrier across the board.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love that guy. He'll be on as well, but yeah, I think that's the perfect way to explain or describe James Henry. He's not about the show.
Right.
He's about getting the job done. If you talk to him about his plan, he's about one thing and one thing only: getting the job done. And that attracts me because I think it's kind of a fiasco right now at National. It's kind of a frat house, if you know what I mean. A lot of stuff coming out here lately, kind of indicative of that. And integrity. That's my thing. Let's get that back into the office of president. And so yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Miss Bibbs.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to have Miss Lewis. Now, everybody knows Miss Lewis because I've talked about her before. When I said that, I know y'all remember when my brother, Mr. Gates, passed away, and I was irate. I mean, that's probably one of the strongest episodes I can remember is when he passed away, how our president refused to get involved. Matter of fact, he said that we were seeking a pound of flesh, which would be one of the all-time dumbest comments ever made by a human being ever, is to say that the city letter carriers want a pound of flesh because our brother passed away, and I believe it's due to management's negligence. And you had one person above everybody else that came out and to me sounded presidential. And I said that way back when. This individual, and I had no idea who she was. I knew her name, but I'd never met her. To me, she was doing what our president should have done, our national president should have done. She came out strong as far as what the post office should be doing, what they're not doing, what the union should be doing. And I said, this young lady right here is the one who's sounding presidential above everybody else. And that's Miss Kamitra Lewis. Are you with us, Miss Lewis?
I'm here. Thank you, Corey.
Absolutely.
It really makes me feel good to hear you say that and to have heard you say it when you did speak it. So I thank you for that. And as Corey said, my name is Kamitra Lewis. I am the president in Dallas, Branch 132, and I am also the president of Eugene Gates Jr. And yes, that was a tragic time for us, and it was hard. When I think about it and I think about everything that I did go through and how I had to do it over and over and over again, it was very hard. But I felt compelled to do it because I truly believe in the letter carriers, the work that we do, and I don't think that it should be overlooked or dismissed. When you think about the CLC, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of CLC, because CLC represents a group of letter carriers who are concerned about other letter carriers. And that was my main goal and has always been my main goal ever since I became a president, way before then, to be honest, because I've been doing some type of union work since 1994. So it's been a long time for me. And I've always felt the way I feel today as I've done years ago. You spoke about James Henry. When I first met James, it was 2 years ago. A couple of my members said, you have to meet the vice president. And they introduced me to James. And from that introduction, James and I have been truly good friends. I realized from one conversation with James that James had the same mentality that I had. He had the same goals and aspirations for NLC as I have. He believed in unions like I did. We shared so much in common that we from that one introduction, we got a bond, a lasting bond that I'm proud to say. I'm proud to say that I'm a part of the concerned letter carriers and a part of whatever James is doing for NLC.
I want to say for all letter carriers, thank you for how you handled the death of our brother, Mr. Gates. I thought, like I said, you stood out amongst everybody, how you handled that situation. I can remember reading newspaper articles where you were firing people's asses up. And I know that you're highly spiritual, so I apologize.
It's okay.
And James as well, but I just remember that. And that still stands out to me how presidential you sounded. That to me, Miss Lewis, is how our Renfro should have acted. Is he should have been like that, setting things on fire because of that. And he didn't, but you did. And so I'm honored to know you. I'm ecstatic that you're part of the CLC as well. And just the amount of strong leadership that you've shown during that entire period of time speaks volumes about your integrity and who you are and your passion for us as city letter carriers. And so I thank you very much, ma'am, for that.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a newcomer, Mr. Rob. I went and talked to his branch in Milwaukee and immediately fell in love with this guy because, first off, his fortitude. He had people that were not happy that I was coming up there, and the CLC. We were coming up there just to educate. I mean, we weren't coming up there to politicize anything or like that. But he told them, they're coming. This is my branch. They're coming. They're going to speak. They're going to educate because that's what I want to happen. And that's what we're going to be looking at the more we go along is the establishment, the old establishment. They're going to be rising up against the CLC because they don't want to lose their position. And that's one of the biggest fights we'll be in. we'll crush that. I'm not concerned about the establishment. We're going to crush them into dust. So I'm not concerned at all about the establishment. But it was good to see Rob when he stood up saying they're going to come educate, they're going to come talk to the members, because anywhere we go, the establishment, the old heads, they're going to say, they don't need to be here. They don't need to come. And so, Rob, you with me, my brother?
I'm here, Corey. Thank you.
All right, my man. It's all yours, man. I just want to tell you thank you for that, for standing up, first off, to the establishment. And second off, for having us up there, man. It was a fantastic time. Y'all are very gracious to us, my man. So it's all yours, brother. All right.
All right, absolutely. So I'm Rob Cozier, current branch president in Milwaukee. Recently just elected by acclamation for the next 2-year term. I recently just took over in June as the branch president. Little back history: I started 10 years ago as a CCA. A few months later, became a steward. Had no real intentions of actually joining the union at first, because I had a bad experience from the machinist and aerospace union that I recently came from, and it only took about a couple weeks to know that I actually made a good decision by joining. Became, like I said, steward within a few months later, and now currently the branch president. Something for me is doing what's right. I like to do the right thing all the time, as best as I can. Reason being is because nobody can hang anything over my head. I look up and down, even in our own union, hear that, people are selling off grievances, people are being bought. I see that kind of stuff in management too. So for me, nobody's going to find me doing that crap. I don't condone any of that. I met James in 2017 at advanced Formula A training. Then again in 2022, my branch was knee deep in grievances. James and Chris Jackson came up. I was appointed on a national team along with a couple gentlemen from branch 3. And, we had to hammer out grievances in my own branch, which was kind of embarrassing. But James kind of took an interest in me, got me to arbitration training last year. And we become good friends. He asked me to be on the CLC as the AFL-CIO delegate. Like you said, asked you guys to come out and do some training. And it was an absolute blast. Almost 70 people showed up. And I knew everybody was going to want to kind of bitch at me about having you guys out there. So, kind of pulled the Uno reverse card, rented the hall like I was supposed to. It wasn't a branch 2 event, but it kind of turned out to be that way. And I think it was nice to have people actually see the faces behind the voices that they hear and see on social media. So I'm definitely rocking with all you guys, and I appreciate inviting me in, and hopefully I can show people what I'm about.
Yeah, Rob, you said something that I know for a fact is going to change when the CLC takes over, is the selling of grievances. I know I spoke about this before in an episode down in New Orleans, approximately 5,000, I think, grievances pending B or pending R. And so they sent this C team down there. So this position they call the C team. And that's the team that comes in after the B team. And so they sold off thousands of those grievances in New Orleans for pennies on the dollar. And that's what you're talking about, selling grievances. Those things will come to an end when the CLC takes over. I know that for a fact. These pre-arb sessions, they're decent, and I understand what they're for, but they've turned into saving both parties money. You're selling the city letter carrier out if the only thing you're concerned about is saving money to the NLC and saving money to the Postal Service. The carrier is the one who's harmed when you're doing those sellout sessions, as far as what those pre-arb sessions have become. And that's what happened to those carriers in New Orleans. They got sold out for pennies on the dollar. And so I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that we've been talking about with the CLC, are those days are coming to an end. The city letter carrier is going to take back over this union with the CLC. That's the way it's supposed to be. We're going to be their agent. That's how it's supposed to be. But the city letter carrier needs to be at the forefront. What do they want? What do they need? How can we do that? And this good old boy system that we've got right now will be dead and buried. I make a promise to anybody that's listening right now, that good old boy system is dead and buried as soon as we take over. And we will clean house on day one. And anybody who's been attached to that shit will be gone. And it's all about the city letter carrier. So, Rob, I appreciate you, brother. You know I love you, and I appreciate you having us up there, man. You treated us like royalty, man, and that was fantastic. I appreciate you, my man.
Not a problem, Corey.
All right. Next, we got Mr. Walt, and I've met this man several times. And when you talk about integrity, this is the gentleman that this kind of what I'm talking about with the CLC. It's about integrity, people that have established themselves as protectors of the city letter carrier. And that's the only thing that matters to me. Now, I'm going to educate for 7 more years on this podcast, regardless of what position I get or don't get. I'm going to keep doing it because it's about the city letter carrier. And this guy here personifies that is Walt. So, Walt, you with me, my brother?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Corey. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. It's all yours, baby.
All right, thanks. As Brother Corey stated, actually, my name is Walter McGregory. Everybody calls me Walt. I'm the branch president of Branch 2184, Southeast Michigan. I've been a contract enforcer going back, this is my 24th year. Right after my 90 days, I became an alternate steward in 2000. That's when I started. Fast forward to 2006, I became a branch officer as the sergeant at arms. And then after that, I became the vice president of my branch. Afterwards, the executive vice president, and now the president as of 2021. Why the CLC? CLC has a bunch of like-minded leaders that I find myself having so much in common with. I had the opportunity to meet Brother James Henry 2 years ago. I wrote a letter to headquarters requesting an officer to come down to my retirees meeting for their celebration. And Brother James Henry, he came down and he showed such leadership speaking at our retirement celebration, and everyone had a phenomenal time. When you speak of integrity, that's what I want to bring back to the Region 6 as MBA. As Brother Corey stated, right now, Region 6 is notoriously known for the good old boy and the good old girl network. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And we want to get back to leaders that understand we work for the membership. The membership does not work for us. So I encourage each and every one of you out there, support the CLC candidates, vote no on this TA because it's a horrible TA. Letter carriers deserve so much more than 1.3%. And when it comes time, your ballot comes out, make sure you educate yourself, read the TA in its entirety whenever that comes out, because we still have yet to see that, and you make an informed decision. But please support Brother James Henry. He's a phenomenal leader, and I think in 2026 we will take back, just like we did in 1978 with some bravado, we will take back our union. Thank you so much, Brother Corey.
So you picked up what I was laying down on the good old boys.
Oh yeah.
If there was one, there's 3 regions to me that are by far the worst, and this is just me speaking. Yours is one of them.
We're number one.
The good old boy system is alive and well in your region, brother. Anybody that's on social media can see that. The good old boy system in your region is by far the worst. And so I was highly encouraged when your name came up, and because I know of you and your integrity and stuff. Also, congratulations on your arbitration win the other day, my
We appreciate that, brother. And
man.
congratulations to the brother who's been out for 2 years waiting to get back to work. So it's about the members, and that's what CLC is going to do. We're going to do that for the entire country.
Right. Well, it's good to see those that still have them delivering on the CLC. They're still in that fight as far as being in that arbitration room. I don't think there's any greater setting to me. I've said this all the time than arbitration, the arbitration room. I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to step aside from that at the beginning of the year because it's fixing to get rolling as far as the CLC getting out. But it was a beautiful decision, my man. Great job, brother. All right. Next, we have a guy who I consider my brother, Mr. Cruz. I've been up to his branch. There's not many people I respect more than Mr. Cruz. He's got a phenomenal branch up there. Some damn warriors in that branch. Richie Ray, who y'all hear me talk about all the time, who I lost the vote on the sexiest podcast voice. I was kind of shocked at that. I didn't see that coming. I thought that I would win that handily, but Richie Ray came in and beat me, and kind of an upset to me is Richie Ray beat me on that the sexiest podcast voice. I give it to him though. But anyway, Mr. Cruz from Brooklyn, a guy that I love as much as blood. I mean, he's a brother to me. And Mr. Cruz, you with me, baby?
Sir, yes, sir.
All right, it's all yours, my man.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that intro, you know. Well, my name is John Cruz. I'm branch president, but before I was a branch president, I'm still a letter carrier at heart, and that's my main thing. I'm always going to be a letter carrier. I just hold the title as a branch president right now. So that's always my first. That's why I always believe in the membership. Um, what can I say? You know, I've had a long journey. Like Corey said, I got a lot of great warriors that work with me. And that's the main thing, that we put great people in great places to do better than us. That's my main goal, to always have someone to do much better than me. Put certain people in certain places and they could do better. But when I leave in the day of tomorrow, that's it. You know, I know that the place they're gonna do much better than me. Now, one of the main things why I got involved with the CLC. First, we were in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was just nominated to be the trustee on the CLC. But prior to it becoming that James Henry was going to be our main guy to run for president, there was one thing that really caught my attention with James Henry. We were going through a little situation in my branch, and there was a gentleman that was sent to my branch from another installation, the Manhattan installation, into Brooklyn. And they said to me, the gentleman called me. He says, "Well, I need grievances to be filed, even though I don't belong to your installation. I need grievances to be filed." So I started to process whatever I had to do. I got in touch with James Henry, and James Henry says to me, "No matter what, if he doesn't belong to your installation, you continue to file the grievances for him. He's still a member of the NALC." And that right there shows me leadership. That's why one of the main things I really got more involved with James Henry. I met James Henry. I actually attended the first Formula and Beyond training with Lou Droz. James Henry was just a facilitator, and that's the first time I ever met James Henry. And you know, his leadership skills, even then, him teaching in these classes were amazing. But you know, and now James Henry asked me to come aboard, participate with the CLC. But you know, I don't know what he has in mind for me. But whatever he asks me to do, I'll do for him. If he wants me to be a hitman, I'll do that for him. I'll do anything the man wants me to do. All right. Thank you.
Well, you got the accent for it. I mean, that's be careful what you wish for.
Hey,
Hey, y'all some rough asses up there too, so I would not put him past that. I've been up there, so Coney Island's just a stone's throw away from y'all, so y'all got it. Y'all got it in your blood up there with the Warriors, right?
Yeah, it's right there, man. It's right there. It's right there.
Well, I sat in your union meeting when I came up there, and the thing that struck me most is your passion for your members. And that's what I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to those people that this is not going through the motions of a union meeting, how boring they can be. You are invested in that thing. And talking about those grievances, the amount of grievances that y'all had and how they were dealing with those. And you made people explain each one of those things. What are we doing as far as these grievances? Where are we at as far as these grievances? Holding people accountable. You love the city letter carrier, and that's what drew me to you immediately. And so, brother, I'm proud to not only have you on the CLC, but to call you a dear friend. And I love you, my man. But you're going to be a star. There's no doubt in my mind.
So much, brother. I mean, that means a lot to me, brother. Thank you.
All right, next. Next we have well, my brother from another mother. The only guy, maybe the only guy that talks worse than me as far as profanity. and yeah, hey, I'm gonna let you go. Whatever you want to say, baby, you can say. But it's Mr. Groskopf out of Brooklyn. And if you've met this guy, you love this guy. And I think that when you talk about the CLC, one of the faces of the CLC, this cat is it. And there is no fight he will not fight. And that's why I love him. If it's something comes up, and this is how I feel, if there's something that comes up, we need to fight it. Win or lose, we need to fight it because you cannot let management and labor get in the position that they can do whatever in the hell they want to do, and we will not push back. I say you fight every single thing, and that's my mindset. And if we lose, so be it. Go down fighting. And this guy is is the example of that. But he has some major victories. He'll talk about that as far as these things that he's fought here lately. But Mr. Groskopf, you here?
Yes, sir.
All right, baby, it's all yours, my brother.
Thank you, Cor. Yep. Dave Groskopf. I'm the president of Branch 3, Buffalo, Western New York. I've been the president up here in Buffalo since May of 2018. Previous to being the branch president in Buffalo, I was the NALC primary dispute resolution person for the Albany, Western New York team. So I handled the grievances there at step 3 in the state of New York, in Ohio, sometimes for Region 11. And going back previous to that, I was a steward in my station for approximately 12 years, being at step B. So, my entire 30 plus year career has been dedicated, to the letter carrier. The like a lot, lots of things that everybody's already said. Going back to what Cruz said, being in Jacksonville, in that very first meeting, when we weren't the CLC, it was just a meeting of concerned letter carriers that were worried about the direction of their union. And I had myself and my executive vice president in that meeting. And that was, for example, my very first exposure to James Henry when he had called in during that meeting. But I knew that day in that room with all of those people, I was in the right place because I've never really been a friend of the establishment or the status quo because I've see the way that the NALC has been run my entire career, and I've never really agreed with it. I got no issue with, for example, putting your friend or your buddy in a position of authority, but you better make sure your friend or your buddy is capable of doing that job. And I would see this all over the place, not only in my own branch, at the region, at the national level. These people get these jobs, and I grew up in a very competitive environment. I was a very good high school athlete. I went to college on a scholarship, and I've always been about competition. People should not fear competition. Competition is what will get you the best candidate in the position, and in this case, leadership in the NALC. And that's not how the NALC runs its ship. It's I can't remember who said it, but it's all about who you know. And for me, that's a major problem. That's why, in my opinion, the NALC has been on the decline, for example, instead of, being one of the best unions in this country. So when I sat in that room and I heard what Ricardo Guzman had to say and what Ricardo's vision was, and, this is no, secret. There was a $500 buy-in. I believe I was the first guy to reach into my pocket and I pulled out $500 in cash and I put that on the table because right then and there I knew this is what I had to do. I had to get into this fight to make a change in the NALC, to get this thing corrected, to take it from, in my opinion, a union of hypocrisy to a union that can be, once again, respected like it used to be. When I came in, Vince Sombrato was the leader of this union. And, like me, he's a New Yorker. Like Cruz, he's a New York City New Yorker. And we carry ourselves a little bit different up here, as you can tell. And if there is a street fight, I guarantee you New York somewhere in the middle of that. And that's what's made me successful up here in Buffalo, from stopping, that SNDC from happening to, congressional investigations opened up about the treatment of the safety of my letter carriers during blizzards. To, I have quite a few accolades. And again, I can't do that by myself. I have a very skilled executive board behind me to help me do these things. And that's what we're looking to put together here with the CLC, going forward, for national. We're looking forward to putting together that exact same thing. We're looking forward to putting together an executive board that works for the letter carrier. And to be honest, that's my biggest problem with Brian Renfro. And it has been now for at least the past couple of years, is he does not listen to his local leadership. He appears to obviously not care about, what his membership thinks. And that needs to change. So, I'm a guy where I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Like I said, I pulled it right out of my pocket, that day in Jacksonville. I was all in then, baby. And, the next year and a half, let's ride this thing.
I'm glad you said that earlier about Guzman, is that you see people, some of these people saying that it's the California letter carriers, not the concerned letter carriers, it's the California letter carriers, because everything seems to be happening out there in that branch in California. Well, it had to originate from somewhere.
Correct.
But the thing is that you look at the CLC as it is right now, they've gone coast to coast looking for heavy hitters, as far as those that have shown a passion for the city letter carrier, how to fight for the city letter carrier, and those that are going to put the city letter carrier above themselves. And that's why I love the CLC, is because, yeah, it started out in California, but like I said, it could have started in Nashville, Tennessee, could have started in Brooklyn, could have started in Buffalo or Texas. It had to start somewhere. But they said, we're going to go from coast to coast. We're going to find the heavy hitters, those that have shown through their history, through what they're doing now, like you, with the SNDC, and get those people that have that passion for the city letter carrier, because we do not have that right now at National. They do not have that passion for the city letter carrier. And you can see that. I've got evidence of that when you talk about a pound of flesh, right? When you talk about that's an inconvenience, right? That's a lack of passion. When you talk about when you have these the falsifying the hip training, when he said those things are discrepancies, that's a lack of passion and love for the city letter carrier. That's an exhibit that I would put into arbitration about somebody's character. And so the one thing you cannot say about the CLC is they do not have passion, and you would be exhibit A in arbitration about the passion for the city letter carrier. It always, anytime I do an episode, I will always get a call from Groskopf. He's, man, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Why? And I counted it out. You only had 45 F-bombs in this episode, just making sure you're all right. And it's like, yeah, you need to put a little more steam on that. It sounded like you're getting kind of soft on us. And I'm like, damn, baby. It's like, if you're going to be part of the mafia, you got to give me a little bit more than that. And so, brother, I love you, my man. You know that.
Yeah, I want to address something you said, Corey. I hear this all the time with this, nonsense about, the concerned letter carriers are quote unquote the California letter carriers. And let me tell you, this for those people that are listening. Obviously I'm an East Coast guy, right? And I was in that room in Jacksonville, put my money where my mouth is. And when they formed the power structure for the CLC, like Brother Cruz, we both raised our hands to be trustees on that board for the CLC. So you immediately had, two East Coast guys, involved in the mix. And as time went on, some things changed. And I got a call from Ricardo Guzman and Charlie Miller, who are both California letter carriers. And they said, listen, we now have a vacancy as far as the second in command of the CLC. And, they were impressed with, my ideas and things that I had implemented. And they asked me to, move up to the second in command of the CLC, which is the current position that I hold. And I can tell you this for those people that are listening, I spent a lot of time on the phone, with Ricardo and James and Charlie talking about a bunch of things. And I can tell you right now, and I'm sure Charlie Miller will attest to this, we're speaking about a number of different subjects. And I can recall, a handful of times now, Charlie has said to me, David, you've completely convinced me, that I'm a different way of thinking, about whatever the subject is that we were talking about. And my point to that is, you've got, us over here on the East Coast. We hold very high ranking positions within the CLC. The guys and the girls from California and Texas and everybody else that's on here, they're listening to us. They're agreeing with the ideas that we have and the thoughts that we have in the direction, that we want to take the CLC. So, if anybody thinks, this is a California thing, you'd be dead wrong, because we're New Yorkers and, we're going to stand up when necessary. No offense to my brothers out there in California.
Thank you, my brother. All right. Last but definitely not least is Mr. Personality. If you went to the convention in Boston and you went to the meet and greet with the CLC, you saw this guy, and the thing that you notice about this guy instantly is his passion. And it's Howard out of Hawaii. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but this guy to me is, if you had a poster child for CLC, this guy would be it, because of his passion, how he speaks, how he feels. It just comes out of this man anytime he talks. And it's his love for the city letter carrier that you see first and foremost. Anytime you talk to this guy, that's what it's about. And like I said, those things attract me instantly to somebody, is their passion for the city letter carrier. You can tell immediately that this dude is not fake. He is 100% about that business, as I used to say a long time ago. He's about the business of the city letter carrier. And so, Howard, you with me, baby?
Yes. What's
All
up,
right,
Corey?
my man. It's all yours.
Thank you.
Now, somebody said that you're supposed to be the sexiest man on the CLC. I don't know if that's the case. That's been floating around, brother. I mean, hey,
No.
hey, you're from Hawaii. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's just
I think
one
that's
of
it.
those.
I think that's it.
It's all yours,
Well,
brother. Have at it, my man.
all right. Thank you, Corey. Well, I started my postal career in Anaheim, California. I'm a former United Air Force. I defended my country, and then when I got out, I got picked up at Brooker Center Station. It was a wild time. Post office was back in the day. This is 1988, 87, 88. So it was pretty wild. Going postal was big. We had no shop steward. And I didn't become a steward, but there was no steward in that office. But our former stewards was Manny Peralta and Charlie Miller. They came out of that same office where I started. You want to talk about 50 carriers that were educated, 50 carriers that when you worked off the clock because you're a PTF, 49 carriers told you, knock it off. So their leadership I was a nobody. But I got to know the contract by what Charlie Miller has taught and what Manny Peralta has taught. So 2 years later, I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm from the land of aloha. And I had 3 children, 3 little boys. And I said I didn't want to raise them in California because, back then it was the gangs and it was colors and it was just a crazy time. So I asked my wife, could I try and transfer? And my wife is from Colorado. And yeah, I transferred. I went in February and I got to go in April 1st, 2 months later. This is before he reassigned. So I went there, did my smile. I'm a local boy, I want to come home and raise my kids, and I miss spam. And these postmasters took me in. And then when I got to Hawaii, there's no steward. The steward wasn't filing grievances. No one ever put in for overtime. And management just had the way with us. And then one day he told me, I'm ordering you to go do something. And I said, well, I'm senior to all these guys. And he said, so what? Well, the next day I became the steward. And I just wiped that office out. And then management came to the union. And that was a small AO, probably had about 70 carriers, branch 4837, Mililani, Waihoa. Loved that branch. That's where I started as a steward. And I got to tell you, because I came from 1100, I had the opportunity to call Charlie Miller up, to call Manny Peralta up, to call Art Turner up, who was the president of 1100 at the time. To be smarter, you got to get wisdom from all these people. And I was a young guy, 23 years old. And so the president of 860, which is the Honolulu branch, was probably a little over 550 to 600 members. Told me, why don't you transfer and come out to the city because you live in the city. And I transferred. Just to get the transfer, I drove 20 miles away. So anyway, long story short, 1994, they did you could transfer as a reserve or you could, and I mutually swapped. And in 1994, I went to the city. 6 months later, I was a steward in Waikiki. Then 6 months later, I was the area steward because all I wanted to do was destroy management. My passion was to destroy them, that what they were doing to the letter carriers wasn't right. And Hawaii, we have this thing called ohana, which is family, and everybody's family. I'm related to the supervisor and the station manager, and that's my brother's cousin's uncle. And I said, well, you know what? You need to treat these people right. And so, yeah, we did what we needed to do. A few months later, that was in 1994. In 1995, I became the chief steward, vice president. And I was what? This is 30 years ago. I'm 29. I had every steward in their 40s older than me, and they got to listen to me. And some gave me a little bit of disrespect. And so I had to kind of knock them on the head and show them the contract. And, and it starts with me, leadership. It starts with me cleaning the bathrooms at the office. It starts with me getting down and dirty. It starts with me going to office visits in my uniform, which I didn't have to wear, but I would wear it because never forget where you came from. And then 3 years later, I was the chief steward, vice president. And in 1999, the person who was elected wasn't doing a very good job. And I told him, but you need to go because management's laughing at us. And he stepped down and I became the president. So I'm actually on my 25th year as a branch president of Honolulu. I've merged probably 9 branches in that time. I did Zoom before there was Zoom. I did Maui, I did Kauai, I did, they couldn't drive in. And I did what I needed to do. I think there's 4 other branches in Honolulu and then Kona and Hilo. And hopefully we'll get Kona with Chris Reed. And I can get another warrior on my side. And so that's where I've been. I was lucky enough to have really, really good people, man. Good people to coach. I think I can identify good people. I think I sent 6 people to leadership. I sent 5 to formal A because I know that it starts with leadership, it starts with education, it starts with fighting the battles. And about 5 years ago, everybody was related. So having 600 members, I did all the formal A grievances. I went to an office, punched the desk if I had to, whatever needed. If I was a station manager and she was, a female, maybe I'll smile a little more. I got what I needed to get to the carriers. And if it was a guy, I punched the desk and said, no, we're going to do it this way. And about, I say 5, 6 years ago, we got a new district manager, new labor team off on the mainland. So what I was hearing in the mainland, because I didn't care what happened in the mainland. I'm on an island. I'm the fish in this island. I get away with what I want. I do what I want. And so about 5, 6 years ago, man, it just started cranking up. And we got to kind of go with the times. My former chief steward, Alvin Matsumura, who's now the state president, said, bro, where you getting all this juice, bro? We're supposed to be slowing down. You're like cranking up. You're more crazy today than you was 20 years ago. And I said, you got to get with the program, bro. And if you're not going to get with the program and you're not going to fight the fight, then you know what? You better go. So I got a new chief steward, and she's a monster. So saying that, and then in this whole time, from about 20 years ago, since we had the 2004 convention, I got to know Chris, I got to know James, and they were part of 1100. And I say 1100 is my first branch. So, I got a tattoo that says 1100 on my chest. No, just kidding. But anyway, so I've always kept in contact with them when they were officers, and then when Chris became a business agent and James became an RAA. And I love those guys, bro. I follow them. Leadership is about, if you're going to war and you look behind and who's behind you, I'll be behind them anytime. And, it's like I told James, he came up to me and asked me, he said, I want you to be a national trustee. And I was talked about that years ago. I said I would never want to go to DC because whoever lives in that code is crazy. So Dave, you're crazy. And I said, this is probably the only job that I would take. I said, but for all of you, I've been retired for 2 years, with 39 years in. So I'm doing this for love. I'm doing this to make it right. I'm doing this because I believe the letter carriers should be controlling our own destiny, not taking scraps from management. I was fortunate enough to be in the same car with Vince Sombrado, and he taught me a lot. This is like 2000. He installed me, and he was like talking to me about the healthcare, and he goes, if you're not in the healthcare, I don't want you. So you know what? I got the NLC healthcare. Meantime, my wife is full-time AGR military. My wife's a retired military chief. I didn't have to pay for medical. Paid for medical because leaders, that's what leaders do. And I joined the NLC health plan. And I even asked Vinny, I said, when you got up to DC, you was 55. Why don't you retire? And he goes, you know what, Hart? If you retire, you lose that love. So for 22 years, he was up in DC that he could have retired, but he was the president. So, listening to what we go through, seeing the change with Vinny, seeing the change with Bill, and then we went with Fred. You can see the demise of the service. And I don't know if it's politically, I don't know if it's, but you know what? The fight in us nationally disappeared. And so sometimes you don't care when you're on an island, because if I fight, what happens in Buffalo stays in Buffalo. What happens in Pennsylvania stays in Pennsylvania. But it ain't going to change how I want to do business in Hawaii. So yeah, we're savages in this island. Savages. We don't take no shit from management at all. And I believe Nationally, we should be savages too. 1.3%. This tentative agreement, and again, doesn't affect me. I got no dog in the fight. But what about all my people that working hard every day and their families? Not to mention the prices of healthcare. Not to mention, we got a new president that talks about tariffing the world. Those costs can come to us, and we're gonna get 1.3%. It's ridiculous. But anyway, Corey, thanks for that. I just do whatever the wishes of the membership, and like John Cruz said, if Howard, hey, you know what, if I'm a younger guy, be a trustee, that's cool. Then I'll be another assassin with my boy John Cruz. So listen, I love your podcast, bro. You know, you always tell people you love them, but we love you because you help educate our members out there every week. I love talking about what you talked about because I tell you, sometimes I laugh because I go, you just reconvene or reconfirmed what I'm talking about we all need to get active and we all need to battle. We need to fight and don't take no crap from what they're telling us because they don't, on our paychecks, don't got your supervisor's name. So don't take it from them and communicate. And, you know, and it's all about communication and having everybody doing what's right. But anyway, thank you, Corey. Thanks, everybody.
When you talk about, you said you want to destroy management. To me, Howard, as a union, that's what you do. You separate yourselves. You're here for one purpose only, and that's for the city letter carrier. When you see all these concessions, and I talk about them every week, that whether it's the cease and desist, Barner, how he does his shit, that you have, to me, the certs and the DPS is a concession because of that 20 minutes off at fixed office time. The HIP was a concession because you didn't want to attack that. The heat, the GPS, the scanner, the intimidation is concession. You didn't want to attack that. To me, you've got to understand, and this is what the union, this is where we're failing miserably at national right now. And this is why I'm so excited about the CLC when you just said that about destroying management. That should be your objective. I can work with anybody in labor. I have for years and years. Everybody on this on this Zoom has done that for years and years. But you got to understand that labor is not in this for the city letter carrier. Labor is in this for the Postal Service. The Postal Service is not in this for the city letter carrier. The Postal Service is in this for the Postal Service. We cannot have our union in this to appease labor in the Postal Service. Where does the letter carrier go?
It's not a political position. You're right. This is not a political, oh, let us be nice with the guy from Texas and let us be nice with the stationary time. That's bullshit. It's we need to hold their ground and fight that fight because I tell you, they take an inch, they want a foot, and we can't give them an inch.
And that's right. And so I love when you say that because we can work with anybody. You've got to understand, nobody that's sitting across the table has our best interest at hand. Nobody. The union has got to be for the city letter carrier only. Anything ever written, anything ever signed, anything ever passed has got to be for the city letter carrier, and that's where we're failing. That's the reason I can't wait for the CLC. So there you have it, everybody. The CLC as of today, some fantastic individuals. I cannot wait until probably end of January to announce some more people, but we're coming. When he talks about the savages, this is it. These are the savages that I have. When I say I want to surround myself with savages and just wolves and lions and shit, this is it. I know these people well. And so I cannot wait until 26 until they can take over and instantly change things as far as the city letter carrier, putting them first. So everybody that's been on here, I appreciate you very much. Again, remember, tomorrow I'm going to do an episode on just some salted peanuts. Got some discipline stuff. I'm going to talk about some videos and things. So from all these on the CLC and me, I love every one of y'all very much. And we have a passion for the city letter carrier. And I know that y'all saw that in this episode. And you will definitely see it in 26 when we clean house up there at the NELC and get rid of all those motherfuckers that have done nothing but suck us dry and take our dues and do nothing with it. We will clean house on day one, and then we will turn our sights to the Postal Service and mismanagement, and we will take care of that as well. And that's a promise from all of us to y'all. So y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. I'll be back tomorrow with some salted peanuts, and I'll talk to y'all then. All right? Bye.